Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are watching this, this is Will with Travel with That Guy. And so I know that I have some other videos that I still need to put up from our cruise last week on the Norwegian Bliss, but I wanted to do kind of an overview slash review of the week and just give some thoughts on it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the whole COVID process when we got there on Sunday. And I'm going to go ahead and share the video here as well, so you guys can go ahead and go back to it and watch that again if you need to. So we showed up roughly about 8:40, I think is when we actually got to the pier, and I dropped my wife and my son off at the berth where the COVID testing was taking place, and that's where we dropped off our luggage. And then I pulled the car around and I parked it. And it was 8:48 at that point. That's when I started my video. And then I walked over and we waited in line until about 9 o'clock. We had 9 o'clock COVID testing appointment. They didn't open the door until 9 o'clock. We went in, the process was smooth. It was seamless for us. We got in. I was tested by 9:03, I think it was. And at 9:18, we got the text message back saying that our test came back negative. So once that happens, they gave everybody a wristband, and there was another waiting area to wait in for the shuttles to be ready. Now, we got there real early, so most of our waiting time was not because things were slow or anything of that nature. It was just because we got there early, and so we were waiting for the shuttle drivers to show up to take us over to the port. That happened, I think it was roughly 10 o'clock when we finally got into the shuttle, drove over, checked in with the Haven department because that's where we were reserved to stay in. And then they put us in the Haven lounge where they had the snacks and the beverages for us. And then at 11 o'clock, they passed out our room keys and took us on board. We were the first ones on board. That process, yeah, it took just over 2 hours from the time that I parked the car to the time we got on the ship. But again, most of that for us was just simply waiting for something to open up. We didn't have any true downtime because things were backed up or delayed. Now, in that video about the COVID, I mentioned that when we sat down for lunch, we could look over, and that line got really, really long. If you've ever been to the pier in Los Angeles, you know that there's one berth on one side, and then perpendicular to there's a couple more berths. So the line was outside that berth to the side, all the way around, curving around the bend. They actually stopped it at the road and then put the people back behind it, back on the sidewalk. And it was extending into the berth where Norwegian was, and extending and started to almost extend down to where the TSA agents were for security. People were saying that they were waiting 2-3 hours just in that line alone to get through. Now, obviously, I don't know how accurate any of that is because we weren't in that line. We have no actual documentation. But however, I was hearing from a lot of different people that the reason the line there was long is because people were just showing up whenever they wanted to. See, at 21 days before the cruise, we were all required to go through, finish check-in, and get a COVID appointment check-in time. We wanted to get there as soon as possible, so we made sure we had 9 a.m. So basically, people were having their appointments for, say, 1 in the afternoon, but then showing up at 10:30 and getting in line. Well, you get that times 50, 100, 300, 500 people that are doing it, and now your line backs up because you have a bunch of people that aren't supposed to be there yet. So depending on when you watch this video and who you're cruising with and what the cruise rules are at the time, if you're having to make an appointment to COVID test on board the ship or before you get on the ship, don't show up until your appointment time. That's probably one of the biggest tips I can give you. Do not show up until your appointment time. All you're doing is causing a delay for everybody else to get on, and then you're causing delay anyway on yourself. You may not, now because you showed up early and this backlog is now happening, you may not even get in until your original time anyway. So what good did it do? Show up when you're supposed to show up. If you really want to be one of the first ones on board, check in early. Here's another tip. Norwegian, as is most cruise lines, are based on they have U.S. they have U.S. offices on the East Coast. So at least for Norwegian, 9 p.m. Pacific time is when everything rolls over and starts a new day. So our cruise left on the 19th of December. 21 days before that is the 28th of November. But the 20th of November on the East Coast starts at 9 p.m. on the 27th on the West Coast. So smart person, like I tend to think I am, played that off and made the reservations at 9 p.m. on the 27th of November. Ironically, as I was sitting in the Las Vegas airport coming back from Disney World. So there's that. Don't show up until your appointment time. Things throughout the cruise were amazing. They were great. Yes, we all had to be masked. They made that change about 2 days before the cruise because of the increase in positive tests on board on various ships. Now, this actually came from the CDC. This did not come from Norwegian. Norwegian obviously sent the letter, but CDC came out and said, no, we don't care what your policies are that we've approved. Everybody needs to be masked. That said, I think they were very lenient on it. They basically said, you have to be masked unless you're in your stateroom. Makes sense. You're outside, and if you're outside and can be socially distanced, it's okay. Again, makes sense. Inside at all times, unless you are actively eating or drinking or you are sitting at a dining establishment. So I think that's where the leniency came into play, because most people, if they had a drink or food in their hands, their mask was off, myself included. A lot of people milked that for all it was worth. They would make sure to have a drink in their hand so that their mask was off. I typically had my mask on if I was walking around, drink or no drink in my hand, or food or whatever. If I was sitting down, I made sure that I had a drink and I had my mask off. Of course, to be fair, we weren't around many people, even if we were in relatively crowded situations, which wasn't too many because the cruise was only booked to like 52% capacity. But I made sure that I had something, a drink in my hand. And mainly for me, that's a lot of that is because if I can't control like the temperature of the room, if I can't control the temperature of the room, my mask on, I start to sweat profusely, and I don't like it because I get hot easily. So the mask just comes off at any time that I am able to do it. In my regular job, I'm able to, control the temperature in my room, so it's not as big of a deal there. So that's part of it. So I was able to do that. Your mileage may vary, depending again when you watch this and what's going on. You may not be able to get away with that. It may become much like flying, where you take a bite of food or you take a sip of your drink and then you put your mask right back on, unless you're at a restaurant. But I don't know. That's just conjecture. I can't say anything to that. About Wednesday, Thursday, some of the entertainment started to test positive, so we lost a little bit of that. wasn't that big of a deal. They made some really good switches on the fly to make that not seem as bad. So Saturday coming back, we spent most of it in the stateroom because the ship was rocking a little bit more than normal. The waves were a little higher. There was a little more wind, and I was feeling it. So spent the bulk of the day in the room, which was fine. Sunday we got off the ship, and yeah, it was a great time. We had a very good time, very good cruise, much needed cruise for our family. While on board, we booked another cruise. I know, shocking. We will be cruising July 6th of 2023 in Northern Europe aboard the brand new Norwegian Prima that comes out this next year. And it'll be starting in Reykjavik, Iceland, and going around Iceland, and then a day at sea, and then 3 stops in Norway, and then a day at sea, and then a stop in Amsterdam and Brussels, and then Southampton, which is just outside of London, which is where the cruise ends. It's a 10-night cruise. And then we'll spend a few days in London, and then we will go over to Paris and do Disneyland Paris. That's kind of exciting. So yeah, we're about a year and a half away from that one. But we're excited for that. And so that's the cruise. I still have some more videos to pop up, so be watching for those as well. So anyway, I thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all your support. Please go ahead and click the like button if you like the content. It actually helps me. It actually helps get the video out to more and more people, so that more people can see what's going on, and then more people can also like and also subscribe to the video to be notified of when new content comes out. Then the subscribing does help me as well. Like I said in the past, I'm trying to do some things. I want to be able to do some better things with this, and I can only do that with your support and your help. And the best way that you guys can do that is by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and then also the word of mouth, sharing this out to your friends and your family, telling them to subscribe to my channel as well. So thank you guys. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.